And then as it goes on, it seemed like everything from school, what I was studying in school, even to where we lived, seemed to be kind of predicated on this organization that we had got involved in. Um, and then I've started to also be taught. So I'm going to 5 meetings a week. Also, I have my mother. She was encouraged to study the publications with me. So I'm also being indoctrinated, so to speak, during that time. So my mother at least would take at least an hour a week to sit me down and go through publication. A lot of these publications that they have are based, for young people. So she would get a book that was for a young person, and she would sit down and try to study that with me. And then, as time goes on, she even went to my mother. Was a Uber Jehovah's Witness, so she took it to the farthest extent. I mean, she was teaching me the deepest things about that organization and their philosophy and their theology at a really early age. I mean, I think I knew a lot of things at 10 or 11 years old, and a lot of that was really disconcerting. A lot of it I did not want, and vocally, like, to say, I don't want to know this. Family. I still consider my mother abusive. I got beat a lot, and those were usually for behavioral things, um, for lying or not doing the chores or whatever. Um, but I can say that it was better after she became a Jehovah's Witness. She seemed to have a little bit of better handle on her anger and outburst. But it definitely did not end it. It just made it a little bit different. Yes, they do encourage physical discipline, but they also encouraged more than that. And I will say this: there was an incident when I was growing up of a friend of mine um, who the child welfare services got called on, and I saw my mother's behavior actually change after that. But it wasn't like it was great. I mean, I still got beat, and I still think that the organization condoned that kind of thing. Were they definitely had the mantra, spare the rod, spoil the child. I mean, that was. I remember as a child in this incident that I'm talking about, a friend of mine, when the state was called in, as far as to see if she was being abused. Um, I remember feeling like, well, I don't know why they're doing that to the parent. She's totally justified in beating her child because the Bible says that we can do that. I remember as a child, feeling that way. I saw so many children that were, that got corporal punishment used against them, physical punishment used against them in the Kingdom Hall. And it's something that people don't talk about. And since there's just an overall okay with corporal punishment, I thought that there was a real lack of really watching for children's well-being. At a certain time, I started to, around age 19, 18, I started to have not necessarily doubts, but it became really depressed. Obviously, I didn't have a college education. I didn't have a lot of job prospects, and a lot of my friends were starting to have a lot. I had a friend that died after not receiving a blood transfusion, and I had a lot of other friends who were having just really a lot of emotional problems, and were um, just having a hard time in a lot of different ways. We're succumbing to a lot of different things, drugs and violence, a lot of different things that I didn't expect and was told that I would not see, within this organization, especially with the young people. And so I was starting to become disillusioned, and I found a girlfriend. But in all of that, I was still going to the elders in my congregation and saying, "Hey, I'm having a problem. I don't know what my problem is." And finally, this was me approaching them and saying, "Hey, I've got a problem. I want help." Them saying, "Well, you need to be disfellowship for a while. And that was their formula for bringing me back into it somehow, getting me not disillusioned somehow. Child-friendly means, one of the main things is having a choice, giving a child a choice to what religion that they're going to become. I think that that's important. Every human being should have that. I think a lot of people would agree with that. It's something that wasn't given to me. I wasn't given the choice not to be a Jehovah's Witness. I think that might be disputed. They might say, no, you were given the choice, but I was given the choice along with losing my family, losing my support. So I don't really think that's a fair choice. And to keep in mind, the children don't necessarily and shouldn't be making the commitments that adults are making. The adults have experience and everything on their side, the legality of being able to make a choice for their future, and children shouldn't be held to that at that age. They should be able to get all the facts and do the same thing that adults have and make their decision on their own on what religion that they're going to be. Obviously, I know that, parents are going to have their children go to services with them. They're going to have them with them. I understand that. But I think that there's also some consideration to letting the child make his own choice. And I think that's important. So if that's done, I think that can help a lot. But also keeping in mind, too, that we are advancing as mankind goes on, and then we've discovered certain things, and we've discovered things about rearing children and corporal punishment, and I think that should have just as much a part of the discussion as the moral part, or the whatever text your religion may be adhering to. I think we should also keep in mind what we know. What we know is that are the things that are beneficial for children. We should also keep that in mind along with whatever the Bible says.